Hey, good morning. I am back home after being gone about 2.5, almost 3 weeks. We had a granddaughter graduate from high school, and one of my grandsons got married, and so we were in Michigan, and so we are back home. And I'm a little tired today, and I want to just talk about John chapter 11. So if you're joining us, I'm Cynthia, and I am the lead senior pastor at Believer's House here in Pace, Florida. And I want to talk to you about a couple of things just straight out. I'm tired this morning. We've been traveling, and we have 2 sons and granddaughters here for a few days. So when you're gone for 3 weeks and you get home and you have company, you're tired. And I'm so thankful that the Lord knows that. And so when I was reading my scripture this morning and doing my devotions, I was looking at it and I was like, say what? And I had to read it 2 or 3 times. And I'm giving myself grace to know that my body's just tired. And we need to take the time that we need to recover when we've been running at full force, right? And God is gracious and merciful in that time. But I do want to share a couple of things that I did see in John chapter 11. There was quite a few things that I thought, there's something to that, but I just can't think what it is this morning. But the one thing, there was actually kind of 2 type things that I want to talk about, overarching thoughts. And one of the questions in our devotional today is, can you think of a time that you felt that God was late and He didn't show up and His timing wasn't perfect in your life? And I think we can all relate to that. And then the second question or statement in our devotional this morning said something to the effect of how do we know that God's timing is perfect, and what scripture can we use to back up that statement? And because we always say, God is never late. He's always on time. He might be at the last moment, but He's always on time. And we have these different statements that we say. And what do we base that on? And do we really believe that God is always on time? And what happens when something goes wrong and something passes and it doesn't seem like God showed up and He seems like God failed? What's up with that? And so I think this chapter, John chapter 11, it's about the death of Lazarus, if you're familiar with that story, and his sister Martha and his sister Mary. And at our Believer's House meeting on Saturday night, someone asked the question, and I said, I think that was a different Mary. And so it actually mentions in John chapter 11 that Mary, Lazarus' sister, was the one who poured the perfume on the feet of Jesus, because we were talking about all the different Marys, because we'd been talking about Mary Magdalene. So anyway, that's just an offshoot. But God, in His timing, as I sat there and I really thought about that, I thought about how God has His plan, His perfect plan, and we see this in the story of Lazarus. And so Jesus' purpose in John chapter 11 was to show that God Himself, and that He, as God's representative, as His Son, as God incarnate, was authoritative even over life and death. And that when he waited those extra 2 days to make sure that Lazarus had been dead past 3 days, right? And had been dead 4 days. And so He wanted them to see that He was life, and He was resurrection, that He had power over death even. And so there's so much in that chapter, but in relationship to those 2 questions, I was really thinking about something that I teach quite often, is that God has a purpose and God has an overarching plan. And that when Jesus got ready to go back into the area, His disciples said to Him, but they tried to stone you last time. Do you want to go there? And see, Jesus had no worries, because He knew He was in the Father's plan and the Father's timing at that time. And the Father's plan and the Father's timing was that Lazarus was not going to die, right? He was not going to die from that, and it was not going to be an everlasting death, that he was still going to live. And so Jesus knew when He went back there with that point in mind that He didn't have to worry about somebody stoning Him, because He was in God's perfect timing. And you can say, well, how do you get in God's perfect timing? Well, that's interesting. But I believe it has to do with us joining Him in His work rather than us trying to get Him to come with us and what we want to do. I believe that that's backed up with the scripture in Matthew 6:33 that says that we seek His kingdom first, and then all the other stuff is going to be added to us. So I thought that was an interesting thought today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Sorry about all the hair, but we're back in Florida with the humidity. So I'll be more awake tomorrow, I promise. God bless you. I'll see you tomorrow.